hope you all had a great lunch. Hope you're all ready to listen for all the great speakers that are coming this afternoon. Ryan asked me to speak at this about 6 months ago, and I said to Ryan, I'll be retired by then. I'm leaving Toyota in July. And he said, doesn't matter. You come and do it. And I actually jumped at the chance to come and speak here because it means so much to me to come and speak in this magnificent building in Belfast. I grew up just on the other side of the Lagan, North Belfast. So to me to come here in a place where most of my friends and family work, they all work in the shipyards or on the docks. In fact, in the lovely little hotel across the road, my mother worked there in the 1950s in the drawing office. So you can imagine for me to come here, it is an absolute honor to speak here. I grew up in Belfast. I went to the University of Ulster, just up the Belfast Loch in Jordanstown. And as Matt said, my first job, in fact, I'm surprised he didn't say what my first job was, because my first job was actually up in the, you remember now, don't you? It was up in Belfast Zoo on the Dodgems. That was my first job, but he didn't mention that one. But my first proper job was at a company called Fisher Body. They were based up in Dundonald, they're long gone now, and they made seat belts, and they exported all over the world. But that gave me my first taste of the automotive industry. So when I finished university, I got a job with Vauxhall Motors, just over in Merseyside. I've also worked with Ford in Germany, but for almost 34 years, I was at Toyota in various roles. I started off in production control. I was head of paint and plastics division. I was head of quality assurance. I was head of, in Brussels, head of all production control for all the plants, Toyota plants throughout Europe. And then I came back as deputy managing director, responsible for all of the production operations in the plant. And Toyota, I'll talk a little bit more about Toyota UK, but Toyota UK, it is one of the most efficient car factories in the Toyota world. And I know that because we see the KPIs and we share the KPIs throughout the Toyota world. So given that it's one of the most efficient car plants in the Toyota world, you can understand it's one of the most efficient car factories globally. So that's me. Let's talk a little bit about Toyota UK. So there's two plants in the UK. One is an engine plant up in North Wales, which makes ZR hybrid engines. But at the Burniston plant in Derbyshire, they make, well, first of all, there's around 2,500 employees, started in 1992. A car rolls off the line, not every 11 seconds, that would be phenomenal. Currently, it's 130 seconds a car rolls off the line. They make the Corolla hatchback, the Corolla Estate, and you may wonder what this loud t-shirt is I'm wearing at the moment. It's the GR brand, it's a Toyota Gazoo racing brand. Early next year, this factory will be making Corolla GR, which is a high-performance, track-ready, hand-built Corolla performance car. You probably wonder why they're doing this type of thing when everyone's going hybrid electric, hydrogen. Of course, Toyota's doing all those things as well. But Toyota believe the customer will finally decide what product they want, and that's why we offer at Toyota every possible powertrain that's possible. So I'm quite proudly wearing my GR shirt today. But let me play a little video to give you a very short video, actually, to give you a little sense of the scale of the operations over in Derbyshire. So it's on a 800-acre site about 7 miles southwest of Derby City in a very biodiverse environment developed in conjunction with Kew Gardens of London. That's the press shop. They take the coiled steel in, they press the panels for the vehicle. You can see that blanks coming in. The panels then go into the body shop where the complete body is then put together, and you can see lots of high levels of automation in the body shop, quite a number of robots. The body's lifted up where it then goes into the paint shop. In the paint shop, they apply all of the protective coatings to the steel. They apply the sealers. Again, lots of high technology in there, and then they apply the high quality exterior finish to the vehicle. The vehicle then goes into the assembly shop where the whole car then comes together with lots of components, obviously coming from suppliers. The car rolls off the end of the line through a lot of testing procedures, etc. And that, in a nutshell, is the car plant at Toyota. And in that video, you will have seen lots of high automation, but that's what I'm going to talk about today. It's not about the automation. In fact, Toyota is not this factory is not a very high automated plant. I'm going to talk about the people, because it's the people that we put first in the organization to achieve our quality and productivity goals is what's key to us. Again, just for those of you not so familiar with car manufacturing, at the Burnison plant, they have got total manufacturing capability of a vehicle. So what that means is bringing in coiled steel to press the coil panels, in the body shop, bringing it all together as a body shell or a body in white, in the paint shop, putting on the protective coatings, the sealers, the exterior finish. I didn't mention the plastic shop in the video. The plastic shop was where the injection mold and paint, things like bumpers, instrument panels, various plastic parts. That's actually the back door of the car. The back door in the Corolla is actually a plastic back door. In the assembly shop, it's a picture of the door line. Everything comes together in the assembly shop. And then finally to quality assurance for inspection testing, including a 1.6 kilometer bank test track we've got at the site as well. But that's the plant. But what I want to talk about today is Toyota's global philosophy. And what does that mean for manufacturing and leadership at the Gemba? When Toyota Corporation started, probably back in the 1930s, at that beginning, Toyoda-san, who formed the corporation, he instilled and committed to the values of Toyota core principles, which later became our DNA. The values of the Toyota way and the mission of producing happiness for all. But these principles, values, and missions, they were never actually written down. It's how the corporation worked for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. In fact, it wasn't until 2001 that they were finally written down on a piece of paper in a small pamphlet. And why was that? It was because in those early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, Toyota was going through a massive global expansion. So it was important to get that consistency of the culture across every Toyota plant globally. And for me, I started with Toyota in 1991. This was a decade later when they came out. But when they came out, it was no surprise for me at all. Although they were written down, it's how we had been practicing, it's what had been coached to me over those previous 10 years. But of course, for the consistency of global expansion, it was important to start writing the Toyota way values down. And I think Brian touched on it earlier. Toyota don't stand still. Every day's a learning day. And more recently, the vision of creating mobility for all has been added to those sets of core principles, values, and mission. Toyota UK is one of 75 Toyota plants globally. And if you were to walk into any of those plants, okay, the layout's different, the equipment's generally different, you'll see a different facility, but the one thing that you will see consistent among all of the plants is the core values and principles that we work to. And all of those principles and values are based on the Toyota production system, the Toyota way, and at the center and the core, focusing on the development of people and processes, all towards the customer focus aims of the highest quality, shortest lead time, and the lowest cost. And of course, being at this Lean conference today, you all know the Lean tools. You've all studied the Lean tools. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of books about the Lean tools. And you know about the Toyota house. And it is like building a house, because we've got the standardized work at the foundation. It's the foundation that everything we do is standardized work. The two key pillars being Jidoka, automation with a human touch, and just in time. And of course, with mutual prosperity at the top. But at the center is Kaizen and motivated members, because we truly believe that by putting members and the development of members at the center of everything we do is the way we will achieve our quality and productivity goals. And because TPS is all about how we make things, it ensures the safety of people, it ensures the quality of our products, and it's the foundation for Kaizen. For me, the real gem is the Toyota Way. And that's probably the one area that you're probably not so familiar with. And as I said before, it wasn't until 2001 that we wrote down the Toyota Way. And it's the foundation and it's the set of principles that defines the culture at Toyota. 2 key pillars: continuous improvement and respect for people, with the 5 key elements of challenge, Kaizen, Genshigan boots, respect, and teamwork. And I'm going to go through each of those a little bit later in the presentation and give my take on each of those 5 elements. But again, I mentioned before, we don't stand still. More recently, to use language which is more in tune with the current generations. You can see how the words are changing, and we're developing the new words. Welcome, challenge, get better and better. To newer generations, we want to make it more appealing and in tune with the language of the younger generations that are coming through the plant. What we then do is we take the Toyota Way and we translate it to how we operate on the shop floor to develop our people and to sustain leadership capability. The photograph in the background is actually we do that through FMDS, Floor Management Development Style. And the photograph in the background is a picture of our FMDS Obeya at the Burniston plant, and we'll show little videos of us actually doing an interview in there in a moment. And within that Obeya, it details the roadmap of development for every single level of the business. It sets the expectations through minimum job role, and it shows the development journey from team member all the way to manager. What is expected of you at every single level of the business? This Obeya, it's open to everyone, always open. Anyone from team member all the way up, you can go into that Obeya anytime. So if you want to improve on your development, if you want to check anything in terms of your progression, it's all detailed on the walls of that Obeya. So sort of bringing it all together, we know the lean tools. You all know the lean tools. That's why you're here today. But what is it that sort of makes Toyota that little bit more unique? Because encapsulating the lean tools in TPS, what we have is FMDS, what I've just talked about, Floor Management Development Style, and of course, the Toyota Way. Toyota Way is all about how we behave, which creates a culture of continuous improvement and respect for people. And FMDS is how we develop our organization to ensure we maintain this culture. Going back to the video that I played at the start of the Toyota plant, again, you may or may not thought, wow, that's high levels of automation, especially in the body shop and the paint shop. But actually, Toyota UK and many other Toyota plants, the level of automation is nothing compared to many other OEMs. If you want to see high levels of automation, go to some of the German OEMs. I've been to BMW, and I was blown away by the levels of automation. But that's not what Toyota is about. Toyota is about putting people at the center of everything that we do towards our quality and productivity goals. So let me just go through now each of the 5 elements of the Toyota Way and sort of start to express what does that truly mean to me. First of all, continuous improvement, challenge. Challenge, what is it about? It's about long-range perspective. It's about setting clear direction through Hoshin or Hoshin Canry process. At Toyota, we try to involve every single person in the organization in the Hoshin process, which you can imagine a plant of 2,500 people. That's a big undertaking, but that's what we aim to do. When we finally make the Hoshin, it's summarized on one A3 piece of paper. Very simple, very clear message that everyone in the organization understands. We then clearly communicate it to all. And that generally means the director standing up in front of the whole factory and communicating the Hoshin for the year, at the beginning of the year. We show leadership commitment when there's problems, really diving in and solving the problems with the Hoshin, taking action, engaging the whole organization, regular follow-up, and of course recognition. Where we achieve great things through the Hoshin, you got to recognize the achievements that everyone's made. Also with Hoshin, I love to do benchmarking. To get out to other plants, Toyota plants, other OEMs throughout the globe, and really understand what are the high level, what are the global #1 goals that everyone's achieving. I love benchmarking. I'll give you one example from the Hoshin that we set. I think it was back in 2022. We benchmarked something called, it was to do with quality. It was direct run ratio. And what direct run ratio? It's the percentage of cars that, when it comes off, it's finally built, comes off the end of the line, and it's the percentage of cars that go straight out the door without coming off for any rework. Rework could be a small scratch or a small missing part or something like that. The benchmark level from Tatsumi plant in Japan was 97% direct run ratio. We were quite a way off that mark. So we set it as a Hoshin, 2022 Hoshin. And the first thing to do was engage the whole organization, because it wasn't just a manufacturing thing. We also had to engage the finance department. We had to engage the HR department for labor availability. We had to engage production control. You had to engage the whole organization. It was central to the Hoshin of 2022. We had a relentless follow-up of that activity. We had many hurdles, many difficulties, but actually, after 3 years, we were achieving 97% direct run, global standard. Other than the global standards are now going to 98%, as no one ever stands still. So that's the next goal. So that's one example from challenge. Next, Kaizen. For me, Kaizen is about promoting organizational learning and revealing problems. And the example I like to give on that is quality control circles. I'm a real believer in quality control circles, because for me, QC circles, it's all about developing people, developing problem solvers. And at Toyota, we stop the line for 30 minutes, twice per month, for members to do quality control circles. Not in overtime. We stop the line during regular production, which is a big commitment to do such a thing. And even though we stop the line to do QC circles, we don't dictate to the teams what to do the QC circle on. No top-down direction. We let the teams decide for themselves, because we know very well that they will choose the top problem of their team. But let me play a little video. I want to play a little video. This is a team member called Luke, and let me hear his take on quality control circles.
It does help team bonding, team morale, motivation, confidence, recognition as well. That's a big one. If you're doing really well, people love to hear your idea. And then even me, confidence in speaking, presentations, which I'd never done. So it's a real learning curve, but it's a real good learning curve, you know. You feel just more confident in everything. For me, that's how I feel anyway.
Powerful stuff. That was one little extract from a video. There's lots of guys and girls doing their comments on QC circles. But again, I truly believe by coaching every member through QC circles, every member in your organization become a problem solver. You can imagine for me, at that time I had 2,500 people under me. 2,500 problem solvers? Wow, isn't that just amazing? Right, Genshigen boots. This is my real one, and you'll see a few familiar faces on this video here. Thorough confirmation of the facts, go to the Gemba, understand the problem, understand the root cause, get yourself down there. But I'm going to let these guys talk about Genshigen boots.
You spend the first 2 hours of your day?
Well, I normally start around 7 a.m. in the morning, and I intentionally block the first 2 hours of my diary out for Genshigen boots.
What did you say? What is that?
Genshigen boots.
What is that?
Going to the shop floor,
Okay.
understanding the facts, the real facts.
Yeah.
I don't want to read reports. I don't want to see PowerPoint presentations. I want to go to the shop floor and understand the facts. Those 2 hours are sacrosanct in terms of understanding. So any problems from the previous night shift or previous shift, I can go, understand, and if there's any startup problems on that shift, I'll go and understand the facts, understand the actual problem. If it's a machine problem, understand what's going on. If it's a parts problem, understand the parts, look at data, etc. And then from 9 o'clock, we have something called another Japanese name, Asakai meeting. Yeah. Asakai is basically morning meeting, the morning production meeting. Runs from 9:05 to 9:20, 15 minutes, short and succinct. And in that, we go through all the key indicators, starting with safety, any safety issues from the previous shifts, the quality condition, operation rate, production issues, and then we finish up with any general sort of company information. 15 minutes, short and succinct.
And that meeting takes place in a really fancy boardroom somewhere, does it?
Of course it is. It's on the shop floor, but again, that's all by Genchi Gen boots. Going to the source, understanding the facts.
There you go. So we did that little podcast. It was a couple of years ago now, actually, with Ryan and Matt, and you can find it on YouTube still. I think it's still out there. If you want, it goes on much longer than that. If you want to take more of my take on Genchi Gen boots. But the one thing I do say about Genchi Gen boots, take control of your diary. You know, if I didn't take control of my diary, I would have the finance people, HR, everyone booking everything up, and I had no time for Genchi Gen boots. I structured my diary completely around Genchi Gen boots. Any various meetings, anything else, it was always Genchi Gen boots. Respect. Mutual trust, for me, it's mutual trust and mutual responsibility. Everyone has an Andon. At Toyota, every single person has the power to pull the Andon. Again, another little video. What does Andon mean at Toyota? So here's a guy on the line fitting the back door trim. He's found a problem. He pulls the Andon, goes on the Andon board. It calls the team leader. Team leader responds. Team leader understands what the abnormality or problem is. He then releases the Andon, lets the team member carry on with the rest of his standardized work. That's key. And the team leader will fix the problem, understand the problem, and fix the problem. But then the abnormality is tracked. It's logged on the computer for various analysis later. But then the most important part that comes after this is that the team leader goes back to the member and thanks him for raising a problem. That's key. So for me, 2 key things to take away from that. One is the recognition. Thank you for pulling the Andon. We thank people for raising problems at Toyota, but also the data collection. The Andon at Toyota goes off hundreds, if not thousands of times every shift. You walk down the line and the music's playing all the time. If the music wasn't playing, if the Andon wasn't going off, that's a problem. You've got to recognize that's a problem. And the amount of analysis that we do to understand the cause of Andon is phenomenal. Lastly, teamwork. What does it mean to me? Commitment to development and thoughtful leadership. One example I want to give on this is a real example that I experienced at the beginning of 2023 was with our maintenance and the maintenance turnover. I'm quite proud to show this example, even though I'm showing exact facts and figures with this. The turnover was far too high. 31 members each year leaving. And I'm not sure what it's like in Northern Ireland or the rest of Ireland in terms of hiring maintenance members, but in England, it's next to impossible to hire good maintenance members. For that reason, we have our own academy. It takes 4 years to go through the academy. But even then, the maintenance member, he's just starting off on the shop floor journey. So this was a huge problem. We heard things like, we don't pay enough, we don't like shifts, there's no opportunities for us. But we didn't take those issues at face value. We got into detail with the maintenance members, we created focus groups, and finally we came up with the real problems being like the working environment, the development, career progression, shifts and overtime. We set cross-divisional working groups, we set a maintenance committee, but for me the real gem was once per week, I'd go to the shop floor, I'd hear firsthand from the maintenance apprenticeship all the way to the guys and girls with 30 years experience, how are we doing against this development plan? And I relentlessly followed that up 1 hour per week for the best part of 2 years. You can look at the numbers now. That wasn't by chance. That's because we took real thoughtful leadership through that maintenance problem. So challenge beliefs and energize others to do things differently and take responsibility. So the last thing I'd like to say about teamwork, and I mentioned global #1 goals. If you have any chance at all of achieving global #1 goals in anything, you have to have your whole organization working as one team, because without that, you have no chance. So, summing everything up now, what I've talked today is about Toyota's culture, based on the Toyota production system, the Toyota way, but most importantly, putting our members at the center of everything we do through the development of people and processes, and developing our future leaders. Our culture is a commitment to developing every person and how we build people and leaders. Lastly, these are some fantastic words from our previous honorary chairman, Cho San. First we build people, then we build cars. And I hope that sums up everything about what I've talked about today. Thank you very much.